Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3912BN. Today's date is May 26th, 2026, and the title of the episode is Deep State is Losing the Fight. Attacks will intensify. Patriots are in control. Trust Trump. Now, you know what's interesting? A bombshell study just revealed that GLP-1 drugs don't actually work the same for everyone. Your genes determine whether the injections work at all and whether you'll suffer the side effects. At nearly $1,000 a month, that's a brutal gamble millions of Americans are unknowingly taking. This is why I'm obsessed with GLP-1 Elevate. Instead of a pharmaceutical gamble, it uses clinical studied plant-based ingredients like metabolate to help my body naturally boost its own GLP-1 signals. The ones controlling hunger and fullness. No prescription, no needle, no generic lottery. I get fewer cravings, feel fuller faster, and actually keep my results without the metabolic crash. Get 51% off at trimwithx22.com. Every order includes free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day money-back guarantee, and free express shipping with subscriptions. Head to trimwithx22.com now before the offer expires, or just click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see the deep state is losing the fight. The more the D's push their agenda, the more the fake news pushes their agenda. It gets worse and worse for them because people are looking at this saying, okay, they are the party that are basically protecting the criminals, protecting the illegals. They're protecting the men that dress up as women. They're protecting everything that's completely against common sense. And Trump basically wants them to go down this path because, again, when they go down this path, the people wake up. The people start to think. The people start to say what's going on, just like with Spencer Pratt out in L.A. All he has to do is show everyone, look, do you still agree with this? Do you like the tents? Do you like them money laundering? Do you like them taking your hard-earned tax money? Do you like them lying to you? And every step of the way, the deep state players, they're losing the fight, not just in this country, but around the world. Everything that they set up for their system, where they place deep state players across the world in all the different countries, it is now coming to an end. Trump has freed the people of Venezuela. He has freed the country. Soon he's going to be freeing Cuba. That's right on the horizon. Right now, Trump is now freeing the people out in Iran. And the deep state players, they are now struggling. The fake news, they're trying to convince everyone that Iran still has the upper hand. Iran never had the upper hand. Trump is the one who closed the Strait of Hormuz. Trump dictates what ships can go out, what ships can come in. Trump controls that area because you have to remember what he's doing. He's removing their control. And the only way to do that is to actually control the entire area. Because, again, if you're going to use leverage against them and make them say, mother may I, where they surrender, basically you need full leverage. This is why he's controlled it from the very, very beginning. Plus, he wanted to show everyone, look, the deep state players are not just in Iran. The deep state players are in the other countries. And when I say the other countries, I'm talking about the so-called allies. So basically, you could see he put them on notice, and now he's taken that to the next level. Because now he's letting everyone know we're not funding NATO the way we did before. Everything now is changing. And you can see the deep state players, as they lose their leverage across the globe, what are they doing? They're going to attack. And yes, attacks will intensify. Does that mean they're in control? No, that means they're struggling. That means all they have left is to try to split up the counterinsurgency. All they have left to do is either remove the president of the United States or make him drop out or say, I give, by going after his family members and going after him, which we continually see. Or they can go after the military, which I think is a little bit tougher to do. So I think they tried and they kind of backed off that. And the other thing they can do is they can go after the people. They can try to split the people up as best they possibly can. They could try to destroy the MAGA movement. And what they're realizing right now is that they're having a very difficult time doing that. They tried using influencers. They're still using the influencers to try to do this. They're using the fake news. They're pushing everything that they have to try to divide the movement. But the movement is not being divided because, again, people have stuck with Trump from the very, very beginning. They saw what he went through. He's They see the attacks that he receives by going after the deep state players. They see the progress that he's making right now. They see how he's dismantling the entire system step by step. And basically every step of the way, Trump is letting everyone know that he's in control. And think about it. From the very, very beginning, he went through all of this so he could attack the deep state players. He took every sling and arrow so he can be at this point going after the deep state players. And nobody said that going after the deep state players was going to be over in about 2 seconds. Nobody said that he was going to use certain tactics to go after them where they might not seem like the tactics that you would use. Nobody said that this was going to be easy. You have to remember, we're in a war. But every step of the way, what does Trump do? He shows you that the Patriots are in control. He shows you, just trust him. He will deliver on his promises. Because if he doesn't, the country is kind of finished. So he knows that this is all or nothing. This is why he needs to gain the leverage. This is why he's been going down this path. Because again, you do not strike your enemy while they have the leverage. You weaken your enemy. You make them so weak where they can't attack back at all. And that is what he's been doing. This is why he had to go across the world and remove the systems that they put into place. He had to dismantle their terrorist organizations. He had to dismantle their control of energy. He had to dismantle everything that they put into place to weaken them. That's what he's doing right now. Basically, he's dismantling everything they put into place. He's ending their reign. And now I know a lot of people say, and I might have said it a couple of times, but at this point, when we say he's finishing their wars, basically they were never going to finish any of this because this is part of their system. They wanted all of these things. They wanted Iran in this position. They wanted Ukraine in this position. Basically, he's just ending them. That's what he's doing. He's ending those deep state players within these countries. He's removing them and freeing them up for the people. So this way they have no power whatsoever. That is what we're witnessing. We're witnessing the restructure of the entire world. And Trump just couldn't come in and just undo everything they did. They put a lot of different mechanisms into place to make sure that when the criminal syndicate was attacked, which Trump is doing right now, they would have safeguards into place to protect their criminal syndicate. And when you step back and you take a look, you could see those safeguards. In the very beginning, they used the intelligence agencies. They used the FBI. They used all of this during his first term to protect the criminal syndicate. They were the firewall. His third term, I should say, what happened? He removed that firewall. So they had to move into the second system of protection. That is the judiciary. And if you notice, every step of the way, they set up levels of protection. And eventually what's going to happen is all the protection is going to be removed, and all they'll have left is the last part of their so-called protection, which is really not protection, which is the illegals, the rioting, and everything else. Even with the election systems, they had levels of protection to protect their cheating system. They used Social Security numbers from those people that are no longer living. They brought in the illegals. They used the mail-in ballots. They used the machines that switch the votes. They had foreign governments assist in all this. They had people on the ground assist with this. This is many different layers of protection. All right, so if you get Social Security numbers and you can't use those anymore, you still have the mail-in ballots. Oh, if you get rid of the mail-in ballots, well, maybe we could use the machines that could switch the votes. So every level, they have certain levels of protection. So Trump is removing each one of these levels. That's what this is all about. By the time he's done, they'll have no protection whatsoever. They'll have no strength. They'll have no leverage. They'll have very little bit to fight back against what is coming. And I do believe what is coming is the storm of indictments, the storm of arrests, the storm of removing their entire system throughout the world and this country. So I do believe once Trump gets the leverage from the House and the Senate, And he has the Patriots in place, and he has removed the rhinos and the D's. I don't even think they'll exist the way we know them today because, again, once Trump moves forward with the Save America Act and he moves forward with the executive order and removes their cheating protection system, well, I don't think the D's are going to get the votes the way they used to get the votes. I think people are going to see how they cheated in the past and how those votes weren't real. And people are going to start to realize that they don't get any votes from the people. They get it all from their cheating system. And I think this is going to be very, very telling as we move forward. And Trump is letting everyone know that we're going to love the way this movie ends. Now, that was a post, and now he reposted this. And he's doing a lot of Q posts, if you really think about it. Is he trying to let us know something? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see. We'll talk a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about the illegals in this country, because you have to remember the deep state players, not just in this country, but all the countries around the world, the deep state players were trying to remove history, remove identity. They were trying to remove everything, and they were trying to basically destroy the structure of every single country. Here in the United States, it was a little bit more difficult. And if you really look at it, from the very, very beginning, what they were trying to do is they were trying to set up a system where they would be able to take over the country, destroy the fabric of the country, and then eventually destroy the Constitution. And this is why they decided to infiltrate the country instead of attacking the country like they did in World War I, World War II. This time around, they realized that wasn't a good way to approach, destroying the United States. So now they set up a different way where they decided, let's infiltrate and let's basically take control of the big cities. Let's conquer those cities. Let's remove what they had in place there and make people believe something completely different. Let's get the people to hate America. Let's get people to hate the Constitution. Let's start to change history in these areas. And they did this very, very slowly. Remember, the deep state players, they move very, very slowly, methodically, because they know they just can't say, hey, by the way, can we just bring in 50 million illegals? Is everyone fine with that? People would say, you're out of your freaking mind. We're not doing that. But if they do it slowly but surely over many, many years, people will then accept it because, again, what are they doing? They're brainwashing the young children. They become then young adults. And they say, yes, this is normal. We should be doing this. You see, Trump, on the other hand, can he remove everything that they have done very, very quickly? Yes, he can. He doesn't have to take years. And if you notice, he's working very, very quickly to remove everything that they set up. And remember, they had since 1970 to set up their entire system. Yes, I know the central bank was created in 1913, but we went really full speed ahead from 70 on. And C3 kind of explains it when we look at the welfare system, when we look at the illegals. He says, sitting down, 1970, 8 welfare programs. 2026, 80 plus welfare programs. How do you keep the illegals in this country? How do you keep the people happy when the central bank system breaks down? You need to create the welfare programs. How do the welfare programs survive? How are they used? Well, you can borrow from the central bank system and you can fund these programs. Then you can give that money to the people. 1970, 1 million illegals. 2026, 50 plus million illegals. Starting to see it now. 1970, 4% foreign-born population. 2026, 16% foreign-born population. 1970, 371 billion in debt. 2026, 39 trillion in debt. The planned demolition of America. This is what they were trying to do. And this is what Trump now is undoing. And people say, well, he's the one that's adding to the debt. Well, think about this. This has been a rebellion in this country since 1913. We went full speed ahead in 1970. And then when Obama came on the scene, he accelerated pretty much everything. So if this is a rebellion, we can then refer to Amendment 14, Section 4, that a lot of this debt that was created by the rebellion, by fraud, and remember, fraud vitiates everything, a lot of this debt, I do believe, is going to completely and utterly disappear. And I think this is why Trump is not worried whatsoever. Why not use their system against them? Think about this. Were they using the United States against we the people. And when I say the United States, I'm talking about Congress. I'm talking about the Senate. I'm talking about the Federal Reserve System. Were they using that against the people? Yes, they were using everything that was put into place for the people against the people. And they basically shifted everything around and made the people fund our destruction. That's what they did. So Trump, what did he do? He turned this all around and says, okay, you did that to us. I'm going to do it to you. I'm going to rebuild the military. I'm going to fight you across the globe. I'm going to use your system against you. And that is what Trump is doing right now. And think about what he's done with the green cards right now. The Trump administration is moving to close what is described as a loophole that allows migrants to remain in the United States while awaiting permanent residency. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services announced Friday new guidelines directing immigration officers to treat the transition from temporary non-immigrant status to permanent immigrant status under Section 245A of the Immigration and Nationality Act as a process that should generally take place outside the United States. So under the guidance, individuals seeking lawful permanent residency would typically be required to return to their home country, complete screening procedures, and obtain an immigrant visa through the U.S. Department of State before re-entering the U.S. as immigrants. So once again, what is Trump doing right now? He's going back to the original law. And now they just can't come into this country. They have to do everything outside of this country, which is very, very interesting. Actually, Homeland Security put this out and said, America is closed to lawbreakers. If you enter our country illegally, you will face the consequences, including fines. Under POTUS and Secretary Mullen, DHS, we're enforcing our nation's laws. Absolutely. So these are the illegal entry fines. 100 to 500 for unlawful entry or attempted entry. 1,992 to 9,970 for failure to honor a voluntary departure order. Up to 998 per day for willfully failing to comply with an order. So when you look at this, you could see that Trump and team now, they're going back to the original plan. And basically all those individuals that want to come into this country using a green card or, getting an invitation or applying, they have to do everything outside of this country. So under President Trump, USCIS is returning to the original intent of the law and reinforcing the proper distinction between temporary admission and permanent residence. Aliens who come to the United States temporarily and later seek permanent residency should pursue an immigrant visa through the proper channels in the home countries before being admitted as immigrants. So the Trump administration, they released a regulatory reform that's going to send thousands of green card holders back to their countries. They're going to be forced out of this country. And all of a sudden, as all these people leave, especially all those people from India, what's going to happen is jobs are going to free up. Wages are going to go up. And everything is going to change right now. And we're going to see that everything the deep state players have put into place, it's being reversed right now. And it's going to get better and better in this country. Because again, this is not just about deporting a couple of people. This is about removing the systems that they put into place to keep their system growing, to destroy the United States. Trump now is reversing all of this. And the only way to do it is to go back to the original law, follow the law, and you have to remember why we weren't. Because again, if you have the judges in place to back up what you're doing, I'm talking about the deep state judges, are they going to rule in favor of the deep state, or are they going to rule in favor of those people that are following the rule of law? They're going to rule in the favor of the deep state players. They're going to find a way to do that, and that's usually through lawfare. And the judges are going to agree with lawfare. Now Trump is going back to the original intent of the law. And again, if these judges decide to rule against it, or again, someone sues or something, what is Trump going to do? They're going to appeal. It's going to go up to the Supreme Court, and he's going to trap them in all of this. You see, in the past, the DOJ would never do that. Why? Because they were part of the system. They were there to protect the system. So why would they sue? They wouldn't. So now Trump is now removing all of these people and resetting the entire system. And this is why the deep state players are continually fighting back. Because again, if you look at what's going on, they're losing all their leverage. And I do believe what we're going to see is we're going to see all those individuals that continually told you, like, oh, I'm an independent, I'm a Republican. You're going to start to see who they truly are. The roles that they've been playing, they're going to fall by the wayside. And you're going to start to see that they were never on the side of America. They were never on the side of the Republicans. They were never on the side of the people. They were always with the deep state players, and they were playing a very, very good role. I think one of those people is Thomas Massie. And you could see that he's still pushing his agenda. He's still trying to stay in government. He's still pushing the Epstein thing. But I think in the end, it's not going to work out the way he thinks it's going to work out. Now, what's very interesting, he's out there letting everyone know that he's going to publicly read the names of the Epstein clients before his time in Congress comes to an end. Shadow of Ezra put this out. Massie says there'll be no high-level arrests as long as Todd Blanche and Kash Patel work for the United States government. So basically, he's been holding these names. Now, let's think about this for a second and think logically about this. He's been holding all these names, and now that he lost the race and he's no longer in Congress, now he's going to reveal the child raping monsters' names. So basically, he allowed these people to be free. He allowed these people to roam the streets. He allowed these people not to be behind bars, but now he's going to do it. Why didn't he do it before? Aren't these people monsters? Aren't these people criminals? Why would he wait now when he lost? Brian Cates says, several months ago, this smug prick teamed up with Ro Khanna to put the national spotlight on Epstein. 4 innocent men whose names appeared in the document at part of FBI lineup, and Khanna and this smirking grifter claimed these 4 men were pedophiles that were being protected by the DOJ. Massie knew the men were innocent, and he was playing games with this, but apparently Khanna didn't get the memo. So Massie's grift got exposed when Khanna read out the 4 men's names on the House floor. Does anybody remember that this actually happened? Absolutely. And here he comes again. Now, if you know these people are criminals, you know these, for a fact, you know these people committed these crimes, why would you wait until you lost the election? Think about that for a second. I think that tells you everything you need to know. And I think in the end, what people are going to start to realize as the role that they've been playing starts to fall by the wayside, you're going to start to realize that these people were never Republican. They were never a libertarian. They were never any of these things. These people were fake from the beginning. And I think you're going to see a lot of these people. I mean, we saw it with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We're seeing it with influencers. We're seeing it with Massie. We're seeing it with almost every single one of these people. You're seeing it with Cornyn. You're seeing it with Tillis. You're seeing it with everyone. Because, again, they've been playing a role for a very long time. Remember, this is part of their system to convince you that there's 2 parties. But, again, it was the uniparty. Is there 2 parties now? Yeah, there's the uniparty and MAGA, if you really think about it. Patriots of this country. And you can see that it's going to be all falling apart. We'll be talking a little bit more about this a little bit later. But first, you could see even the people out in Europe, they're pretty much fed up with their installed politicians. Because once again, the installed politicians are doing everything the opposite of what the people actually want. And the people now are saying, listen, we have too many illegals in this country. We need to start to deport them. So what do politicians do best? They lie. Peter Sayong, PhD, put this out and said, European voters want mass deportation by margins of 70 to 80%. And leaders are finally responding, starting with former left-wing utopia, Sweden. Now, again, when they hear the people say this, when they hear the people say, hey, listen, everything that you were doing before when you were letting all the illegals in and you were lying to us saying that this was going to really help the country because this is diversity, this is inclusion, this is what we do. Well, again, they lied back then. You don't think they're going to lie again? Do you really think they're just going to turn around and say, hey, you know what? Let's deport all the people that we just let in? No, they're full of it. I mean, France's justice minister is calling for a 3-year immigration moratorium. Why would he be doing this? Well, he's saying that the country reached its limit. But again, the people are no longer on board with them. The people now are pushing back. And what do politicians do? They lie. So they're going to tell you what you want to hear, but you got to look past that. The people of France, the people of the UK, the people of Germany, the people of all these countries, they have to look at their actions. Have they ever followed through on any of their promises? Most likely not. Are they going to follow through on this? No. They're just trying to stay in power. That's what this is all about. And anytime there's an election coming up, what do? They lie more to the people. We see it in this country over and over and over. Just like with NATO, they've been lying to everyone in regards to NATO, who funds NATO, who's actually the biggest beneficiary of NATO. And once again, Trump called them all out on this. Trump says, you're not paying in. The United States is paying for everything. And you know what? That is coming to an end. And it looks like the U.S. is going to reduce NATO military support. The United States is scaling back key military assets assigned to NATO, including fewer fighter jets, reduced strategic bombers, and no submarine contributions. Defense Index says the move discussed in a closed NATO briefing has reportedly surprised European allies and highlights Europe's heavy reliance on U.S. defense support amid ongoing tensions with Russia. Remember, they were going to use NATO to bring us into war under Article 5. And again, the European allies, which they're not really allies, and I'm not talking about the people of those countries, I'm talking about the installed politicians, they wanted the United States to fund it all, give all the weapons, and when it was time for us to go to war, they would use Article 5, and the United States would be brought into the war. Now, since Europe wouldn't be able to fight back, Europe was going to lose the war. The United States was going to lose the war. They were going to pretty much take over the world. That was their entire mission. But again, you could see it's not working out the way they thought it was going to work out. And Trump now is dismantling everything they put in place and exposing everything that they did. And you can see those individuals that still think they know what's going on, they're still pushing the idea that they know what's going on with Iran. They know what Trump is doing. But again, Trump uses the art of the deal, the art of war, to get what he wants. And a lot of times, it's very difficult to understand what he's exactly doing because he traps the deep state players where he wants them. I mean, look at Mike Pompeo right now. He is out there trying to convince everyone that he knows what's going on. He says the deal being floated with Iran seems straight out of the Wendy Sherman, Robert Malley, Ben Rhodes playbook. Play the IRGC to build a weapons of mass destruction program and terrorize the world. Not remotely America first. It's straightforward. So basically, does he know what's going on? Well, Stephen Chung says Mike Pompeo has no idea what the F he's talking about. He should shut his stupid mouth and leave the real work to the professionals. He's not read into anything that's happening. So how would he know? He wouldn't. They're just using what they would do to convince the people that no progress is being made. And again, think about what the deep state players have done. They set this up going back in time. Obama created all this. He sent over the pallet of cash. He allowed the uranium to be sold to Iran because, again, we had Hillary Clinton, Obama basically sell the uranium, went through Canada, went to Russia. Russia then gave it to Iran. So basically the isotope is going to show you where it originated from. And where it originated from was the United States. And basically he gave them money. He wanted them to develop a nuclear weapon. This way they can control everything in that area because who's going to attack a country that has a nuclear weapon? And Trump pretty much shut all that down. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said, one of the worst deals ever made by our country was the Iran nuclear deal put forth and signed into existence by Barack Hussein Obama and the rank amateurs of the Obama administration. It was a direct path to Iran developing a nuclear weapon. Not so with the transaction currently being negotiated with Iran by the Trump administration. The exact opposite, in fact. The negotiations are proceeding in an orderly and constructive manner, and I have informed my representatives not to rush into a deal in that time is on our side. The blockade will remain in full force and effect until an agreement is reached, certified and signed. Both sides must take their time and get it right. There can be no mistakes. Our relationship with Iran is becoming a much more professional and productive one. They must understand, however, that they cannot develop or procure a nuclear weapon or a bomb. I would like to thank, thus far, all the countries of the Middle East for their support and cooperation, which will be further enhanced and strengthened by their joining the nations of the historic Abraham Accords. Who knows, perhaps the Islamic Republic of Iran would like to join as well. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. And I do believe in the end, that's what this is all about. Have all the countries sign on to the Abraham Accords. Have all the countries work together. Ladies and gentlemen, our world is being poisoned. Every day we're exposed to more chemicals sprayed into our skies, leaching into our food, and polluting our air and water. From pesticides and heavy metals to hormone disruptors and synthetic additives. These toxins are bombarding our bodies and silently destroying our health. But there is something you can do to fight back, and it starts with your gut. Kimchi One from Brightcore Nutrition contains over 900 strains of beneficial probiotics that help flush toxins, restore gut balance, and support your immune system. When your gut is strong, your body can resist. You feel the difference. Better digestion, more energy, clearer thinking, stronger immunity, and even improvements in your skin, hair, and metabolism. And this isn't just hype. Studies show that fermented foods like kimchi can reduce the risk of obesity, improve blood sugar, and support whole body wellness. Kimchi One is an all-natural, non-GMO, dairy-free, gluten-free, and 100% made in the USA by a company that actually cares about your health. Today, you can get 25% off your order by using code X22 at mybrightcore.com/X22. Or for the best deal, call Brightcore at 888-959-5248. You'll get up to 50% off, free shipping, and even a bottle of vitamin D3 with your order. That number again is 888-959-5248. Detox your body, rebuild your gut, and take your health into your own hands starting today. Or just click the link in the description. Once that is done, it removes the deep state power. It removes the central bank power. It's going to decentralize everything. It means they are no longer beholden to the deep state players. And think about the D's, the fake news. They're all trying to convince everyone they know what's going on. They have their inside sources. They don't. Trump says, I laugh at all the Democrats, rhinos and fools, who know nothing about the potential deal I'm making with Iran. Things that haven't even been negotiated yet. Weak and ineffective people like failed Senator Tom Tillis, soon out of office. Bill Cassidy, who just suffered a massive primary loss. Really bad Congressman Thomas Massie, a major sleazebag who lost in a landslide to a great American patriot endorsed by Trump. After showing tremendous disloyalty to his party and country, and almost all Democrats, people that have totally lost their way, constantly supporting bad policy and even worse candidates, but are constantly critical of each and every fantastic win I have. These people should go home and rest. They do nothing but create division and loss. In other words, they are losers. The deal with Iran will either be a great and meaningful one, or there'll be no deal. It'll be the exact opposite of the JCPOA disaster negotiated by the failed Obama administration, which was a direct and open path to a nuclear weapon for Iran. No, I don't do deals like that, President DJT. Absolutely. And you can see that the deep state players, they're still pushing against Trump and team, against the Patriots. Because again, once Trump wins this for the people, it's game over for the deep state players, and they know this. So what are they doing? They're trying to shut down the deal as best they possibly can. So what did they do? Well, it looks like they were basically putting mines back into the Strait of Hormuz. And what happened? Well, it looks like CENTCOM said, okay, we're going to stop this. They conducted a self-defense strike in southern Iran to protect our troops from threats posed by Iranian forces. Iranian boats attempted to lay mines and a SAM, surface-to-air missile, site in Bandar Abbas, and they eliminated it. So what did Iran do? They said, hey, look, the United States, they broke the ceasefire agreement. No, they basically decided to do this knowing that the United States would say, no, you're not doing that. So basically, they tried to pull something and they got caught. And the world now can see it. Because again, you have the deep state players pushing the faction in Iran, the IRGC, to say, and they're telling them, do not give up. Because if you give up, the game is over. So basically, every step of the way, yes, the Iranian people, are they suffering? Yes. Is the IRG suffering? Yes. Do they have money? No. Can they sell any of the oil? No. Do they have control of the Strait of Hormuz? No. Do they have any real weapons that they can use against the American forces? Absolutely not. When they try, it's destroyed immediately. So they have no leverage, they have no power, and the country now is suffering. They are suffering. And Trump can just wait it out. Because again, we have our Navy, we have our Air Force, we have our people, we have income, we have our oil, we have everything. What do they have? They have nothing. They're suffering right now. And every day that passes, it gets worse and worse for them. Now, again, they could do it the easy way or they could do it the hard way. The hard way is Trump destroys the rest of them and says, okay, you're done. Go ahead, people. We've been supplying you weapons. Go in, take over. It's remove those people to get control of the government and we'll deal with you. Or they could do the easy way. You could still be alive. You can surrender. Your families can still be alive. And we don't have to have all this destruction. Again, Trump is just waiting it out, seeing which way they want to go with this. Because again, they're being told to not hand over the uranium. The central bankers are saying, do not give up the control because then we won't have the control in regards to energy. Because if the fear is gone and the oil is decentralized across the world, what happens? Think about it for a second. Clinton says, one thing has been proven. The main objective of this entire operation was to obtain the enriched uranium. That is one objective. The other one is to decentralize energy across the world. Because again, what are we doing? We're changing the entire structure of the economic system that the central bankers have set up. Meaning that Obama has always been the target, as I have been telling everyone since day one. This is about cleaning up Obama's mess and eliminating rogue threats around the globe. This is about uprooting all global deep state assets, securing the smoking gun evidence on the Obama administration, and showing the world how close we were to destruction. Iran has always been about exposing Obama and his administration. When we talk about deep state crimes, Iran is arguably the biggest one. Obama and Clinton intentionally tried to give weapons of mass destruction to our enemies in wartime, also known as literal treason. That's what all this has been about. The entire point of this conflict is to make the world safer by permanently taking down Obama and the deep state, and the nuclear fingerprint from the enriched uranium is the golden ticket that will confirm their crimes. Uranium One. It's all leading up to the grand finale, treason. And Trump let us know that we're getting very, very close to a peace deal. He put this out and said, negotiations with the Islamic Republic of Iran are proceeding nicely. It will only be a great deal for all, or no deal at all. Back to the battlefront and shooting, but bigger and stronger than ever before. And nobody wants that. During my discussions on Saturday with President Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud of Saudi Arabia, the President of the United Arab Emirates, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, the President of Turkey, the President of Egypt, and the President of Bahrain, or the King of Bahrain, I stated that after all the work done by the United States to try and pull this very complex puzzle together, it should be mandatory that all these countries, at a minimum, simultaneously sign on to the Abraham Accords. Those countries discussed are Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, already a member, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Bahrain, already a member. It may be possible that one or two have a reason for not doing so, and that will be accepted, but most should be ready, willing and able to make this settlement with Iran a far more historic event than it would otherwise be. The Abraham Accords have proven to be, for the countries involved, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, Sudan, Kazakhstan, a financial, economic, and social boom, even during this time of conflict and war, with the current members never even suggesting leaving or taking so much as even a pause. The reason for this is that the Abraham Accords have been great for them and will be even better for everybody and bring true power, strength, and peace to the Middle East for the first time in 5,000 years. It will be a document respect like no other that has ever been signed anywhere in the world. Its level of importance and prestige will be unparalleled. It should start with the immediate signing by Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and everybody else should follow suit. If they don't, they should not be part of this deal, in that it shows bad intention. In speaking to numerous of the great leaders mentioned above, they would be honored, as soon as our document is signed, to have the Islamic Republic of Iran as part of the Abraham Accords. Wow, now that would be something special. This will be the most important deal that any of these great but always in conflict countries will ever sign. Nothing in the past or in the future will surpass it. Therefore, I am mandatorily requesting that all countries immediately sign the Abraham Accords, and that if Iran signs its agreement with me As President of the United States of America, it would be an honor to have them also be part of this unparalleled world coalition. The Middle East would be united, powerful, and economically strong like perhaps no other area anywhere in the world. By copy of this truth, I'm asking my representatives to begin and successfully complete the process of signing these countries into the already historic Abraham Accords. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President DJT, President of the United States of America. Now think about what he's doing right now. He's letting you know pretty much that a deal most likely is already being made. These countries are already on board. The new regime in Iran, the new government in Iran is going to sign on. So what does this do? It removes the Middle East from China. They just lost control. They're no longer part of the Silk Road. The central bankers lose control. OPEC most likely will be dismantled. As we can see, the UAE is already leaving OPEC. And we're going to see peace in this region with no fear, which means the price of oil will no longer be controlled by the central bank. They'll lose the control. Everything that they set up back in 1971, actually prior to that, is being dismantled right in front of our eyes. Matt Cook put this out and said, Trump just turned the Abraham Accords into an accountability trap for the Gulf states, and Iran walked right into it. Gulf states like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey have never held Iran accountable is due to exposure. They share a neighborhood. They can't sanction, shame, or confront Iran while having zero security architecture binding them to the West or each other. The Abraham Accords changed that math entirely. Once Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey are signatories, they aren't just recognizing Israel. They are locking themselves into a collective security posture. A breach of the Iran deal becomes their problem to call out, not just America's or Israel's. You can't sign a normalization framework and then look the other way when your new partner, Israel, is threatened by a nuclear Iran. The Accords create a skin in the game. If Iran violates the deal, the Gulf states aren't just silent bystanders anymore. They're co-signatories of the broader peace architecture. The political cost of looking away just went from zero to enormous. That's why markets are surging and oil is dropping. The world is pricing in something it hasn't seen in decades, a Middle East where the neighbors themselves have a structural reason to enforce the peace. Genius. Absolutely. And think about what Trump has been doing this entire time. He's been pointing the finger at Obama over and over and over. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said, Obama's Iran deal sent tons of cash to fund nukes. Treason. And that was coming from women for Trump. Then he put this out on Truth. The enriched uranium, nuclear dust, will either be immediately turned over to the United States to be brought home. Brought home. So is he saying the uranium originally came from here? I do believe so. And destroyed, or preferably in conjunction and coordination with the Islamic Republic of Iran, destroyed in place or at another acceptable location, with the Atomic Energy Commission or its equivalent being witness to this process and event. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So basically, Trump has given Iran two possible paths. Either allow us to have uranium, or it will be destroyed either in Iran or someplace else with the Atomic Energy Commission. Now, are they going to take an isotope reading? Absolutely. So basically, this is putting Iran in a very, very tough position because they've been saying we're never going to hand over our uranium to the United States. So now he says, okay, you have these two paths. Which one do you want? Does it mean he's not going to get the isotope from the uranium? No, I do believe he's going to, no matter what. He's also said, and he mentioned, that the uranium was going to be brought home, which means home is where it originally came from. So he's letting everyone know that it came from the United States. Now think about what Trump is doing right now. He's setting all of this up, letting everyone know that the peace deal is not just a peace deal. It's the surrender of Iran, and all the nations out in the Middle East are on board with this. Now, Trump is going to Camp David, and the word is that he's bringing his full cabinet to Camp David. Now, in Camp David, there are no visitor logs. those people that are traveling and meeting with Trump, it's held in private. I mean, if we go back a little bit in time to September 2019 during his first term, Trump secretly arranged peace talks at Camp David with major Taliban leaders. So they were coming to Camp David because they wanted this to be kept a secret. Now, the actual trip didn't happen. They were planning on it, and it was kept a secret until Trump mentioned it. He later described the plan as having been kept unbeknownst to almost everyone, with the meeting itself intended to remain completely under wraps until it happened. So Trump is planning to go to Camp David. They closed the airspace. He really doesn't like Camp David at all. But the question is, why isn't this meeting happening in the White House? Are there certain individuals now coming to Camp David where he doesn't want the press to see it? He doesn't want the logs to record it. He wants to keep this very secret because there are certain individuals coming to sign on to maybe a peace deal. Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see how this plays out. Now, the other part of this might be, are they meeting to maybe go into Cuba to set up that mission or something else with Iran? But I do believe that if Trump now is continually telling us that the peace deal is going very well, things are happening, Iran is suffering right now, they know that there's no way they're going to be able to withstand another bombing. They're all going to be dead. They know this. So I think at this point in time, the strength that the IRGC once had has been diminished quite a bit. The new faction has gained power, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these nations are signing on to the Abraham Accords, or they will be signing on to the Abraham Accords. And I wouldn't be surprised if Trump is meeting with certain people for all this. But we'll have to see how this all plays out. But we could see that, once again, who has all the leverage? Trump does. And you could see at this point in time, he's pretty much trapped all these nations in all of this. And the deep state players, China, the central bankers, they're all going to be kicked out of this region. Remember, they created this region back in the 60s. I'm not talking about China, I'm talking about the central bank, the deep state players. They created this region back in the 60s to take us from the gold standard onto the petrodollar system and control the price of energy across the world, because eventually they knew their entire mission was to do what? Use climate change, tell everyone the earth is falling apart, we have to go green. They started this way, way back, actually going back to the 70s. They told us we were entering an ice age. Go look at news reports back then. And then as the earth started to warm up because of the sun, they said we were going into global warming. Then the earth now is cooling down again, so they changed direction once again. But they were planning on bringing us to where we are today and actually moving forward, much, right into the Green New Scam and removing oil, removing everything, going to a central bank digital currency. Eventually, they wanted a one world government with one currency. That was their main plan. So right now, you could see that Trump now is dismantling everything that they set up. And yes, are they still trying to fight back? Of course they are. We're in a war with them. They don't want Trump to dismantle their entire system. And look what Tedros is doing. He's trying to push, or he's trying to throw everything at the wall and hoping something sticks in regards to a pandemic. Remember, we started out with the hantavirus. They started out during Biden's time, the bird flu. Everything keeps falling apart. Now they're stuck on Ebola. And the WHO chief is saying that Ebola is moving really fast. The epidemic is outpacing the response efforts. It's getting worse and worse. And think about what Trump has done. His administration, they put a ban up. Listen, nobody can go to Africa. No one from Africa can come to the United States. And again, the WHO didn't want that to happen. They just wanted to do contact tracing. Why? Because they wanted it to spread. Or they were hoping that it would spread enough where they could then get a couple of people and then scare the rest of the population by having the fake news on board with all this. But again, it's not going to work. And you can see there are certain companies like AstraZeneca and many others, they are pushing very, very hard to get a vaccine. But in the end, I do believe this is all going to fall apart because, again, the people, especially in this country, they're not going to fall for it once again. So I do believe they're going to be changing directions because once they realize that they can't get this off the ground, they're going to move into the next thing. And once again, I just have to say this. Trump and team, they're never going to join up to the WHO. So if this is what their plan was, it completely and utterly failed. But I do believe their plan is to try to kick off another pandemic to see if they're able to get the people to go along with it. And when they see the people aren't going along with it, this is when they're going to change everything up and they're going to move away from the pandemic. And I do believe they will attempt some type of cyber type of an event because they love using an invisible enemy. Because if you can't see it and you could just tell people it's happening, it's much easier to convince the people. Because all you got to do is use what? Fear. That's what they like to use on the people. It's the unknown that scares the people, and they know this. But this time, the people aren't going to fall for it. This time, it's very, very different. And you can see Trump has been preparing for this from the very, very beginning and leading the deep state players down this path because he knew that it's not just within this country, it's outside the country. And we could see there are foreign countries, entities that have been funding, pushing the destruction of the United States. And yes, we could see that they infiltrated this country. It's very clear to see now. And what's very interesting is that we had Code Pink and we had Hassan Piker. They went down to Cuba to actually bring supplies for the starving people. Now, that was their cover story. And they weren't really there to help the people there. They were there to coordinate with the deep state players down in Cuba. And what's very interesting is that Code Pink actually started to become buddy with Marjorie Taylor Greene. They actually met her in her office. Now she escaped to Costa Rica, sold her house here in the United States, bought a $5 million house down there. And basically, it looks like it didn't take that much to actually have her turn on the entire country. It looks like Nick Shirley has now discovered that she's taken like $14 million to sell out her country. So that's very, very interesting. But think about what just happened with Code Pink and Hassan Piker. It looks like they're now facing federal scrutiny over the trip and have been served subpoenas. And now they're in trouble. So the subpoena for Hassan Piker and Medea Benjamin is over the Cuba trip. Federal officials have served the subpoena to them, and they are requesting some information. They want financial and logistical and communication information revolving around the trips that they bragged about, and they want all this information. And you can see that Hassan Piker, he's a little upset, a little panic right now. Andy No put this out and said, Hassan Piker, the far-left influencer who celebrates deadly violent political violence and violent revolution, appears distressed when discussing he has been subpoenaed by the U.S. Treasury to clarify his connections to the sanctioned Cuba regime. And once again, you could see that their mission was not just to bring medical aid. Their mission was not to bring just food. Their mission was about something completely different. So Code Pink DC coordinator Olivia DiNucci has responded to being personally named in the Trump administration's Treasury and DOJ investigation into the Cuba Solidarity Convoy by doubling down and openly admitting the operation was never just about delivering medical aid. Instead, DiNucci framed the entire fiasco as part of a broader transnational solidarity pipeline that ties the Cuban communist regime to Hamas-linked Palestine causes, the Iranian theocracy, Congo activism, and radical domestic protests here in America. And DiNucci's own rhetoric appears to confirm critics' concerns that this was never merely a humanitarian drop-off. Instead, by her own telling, the Cuba operation was a node in a much broader ideological activism network spanning multiple geopolitical flashpoints. And you could see that now they're in trouble. And I do believe this trouble, and Joe Lange also agrees, that this is all going to lead back to Obama. Remember, all of this was set up because it's infiltration from within. It's all set up by Obama. And basically, Obama, Hillary Clinton, and the deep state players, they're still orchestrating all of this. Joe Lange says Obama is the real target. This story will be traced back to Obama. These paid-for AstroTurf protests against Trump are being funded through foreign proxies using taxpayer money. And now this is all going to start to fall apart because, again, what is the Treasury going to do? They're going to follow the money. They're going to find out who's been paying these people. And it's not just these people, it's also the influencers that are continually being paid to push certain narratives. And you can see there are certain people that are all part of this. Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owen, and many, many others. And you could see Megyn Kelly, she was basically talking doom and gloom, and she was pushing accusations against Trump, saying that he raped Ivana. So that is very, very interesting. So basically, the assets have been activated. They try everything else, and everything else has been failing, and they're still pushing this with the influencers. James Lindsay says, one of these days, we'll probably find out what caused these people to all go so bad at the same time at exactly the most opportune moment for our many enemies. But in the meantime, we can laugh at their broken power over people. Alex Brushwitz says, we are aware of multiple foreign influencers campaigns and are actively tracking both the intermediary companies receiving these funds as pass-throughs and the influencers who are failing to disclose their compensation. We need far stricter disclosure laws for foreign influencers' marketing ops. So I do believe they are being looked into. I do believe they funnel the money through many different shell companies, NGOs. So this way it doesn't look like they're accepting money from foreign governments. But if you notice, all these people are pretty much on the same page, which means they're being funded, they're being told what to do, what to say, and how to attack. And again, why are they doing this? Because again, it's the counterinsurgency. On one hand, they have those people that are they're brainwashing to attack Trump, try to assassinate him. They're even trying to assassinate their family members, which we'll be getting to in just a sec. And they know that Trump is part of the counterinsurgency. Without Trump, the counterinsurgency fails. They tried going after the military, but we had Kelly and Slotnick saying, hey, listen, don't obey the orders of President Trump. But that completely fell apart because, again, that's treasonous against this country. And Pete Hegseth started to look into this, and they knew that, holy crap, we fell into this one, and this is not the direction we should head in. So the other part is the people. How can we basically break up MAGA? What can we do? We can start the idea and use Israel. We can then use MAGA is falling apart. It's dividing. People are against Trump. And then we can put out other information to convince the people now that Trump is a bad man. But all of this is failing. You see, the counterinsurgency is made up of the president, the executive branch. They don't have control of the FBI, DOJ, and the rest. If you notice, Trump now has temps in these positions. Very, very interesting. Timing is very, very interesting. They can't go after the military. They're following the oath of the Constitution. And Trump has let every single one of them remember your oath. If they don't want to remember their oath, they don't need to be in service. So they can be removed. They can retire. They can do whatever. But again, the military will follow their oath. So the other part of it is the MAGA population. Can we divide the MAGA population? And this is what they've been doing. It's one gigantic psyop. And basically, they're involved in destroying America. That is what we are witnessing right now. And you can see in many of the different areas where they conquered these areas, the deep state players, the people that have been installed in certain positions, they're truly telling you and showing you who they are. Libs of TikTok put this out and said, Sacramento City Councilor and congressional candidate Mai Vang refused to say the pledge and turned her back on the American flag. Her election is next week. Don't let this anti-American lunatic anywhere near Congress. So wait a minute. They're running for a position. They're running to be a candidate to be in American politics, but they hate America? Think about that for a second. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. It shows you the infiltration. These people are getting elected. They're not really getting elected. They're being installed in these positions because their mission is to destroy America. And how do you do this? You get into government. By getting into government, you can then destroy it from within. Look at DC. Look at the Ds. What do they vote for? They vote for everything that's against America. When you look at all these other areas, that's what they're doing. And basically, they want the people to move out of the city. I know people, when they look at California or New York and they see people leaving, this is their objective. Their objective is to have the Americans leave these areas, have the corporations leave these areas. So they could do what? They can bring in their people. They don't want to rebuild the homes in these areas, especially out in California with fires, because they want to set up housing for the illegals. That's what this is all about. Wall Street Apes put this out and said, U.S. Attorney for California Bill Esali says Democrats in Sacramento work on passing bills to give free down payments of homes of illegals. He says American citizens have been moving out, so Democrats are working to give illegal homes to replace the population. The dirty little secret is that they want the flow of illegal immigrants. When you go to Sacramento, this is like the protected oppressed group of the day. And so all their bills every day is like, how do we protect illegal immigrants? How do we get more lawyers for them? How do we get them more services? How do we get them free down payment assistance to buy a home? I'm not joking. That was a bill when I was in Sacramento. They wanted to allow illegal immigrants to access down payment assistance to buy a home. So basically, they want this. They want to replace the American people. And that's what Karen Bass has been working so hard in doing. And Spencer Pratt is saying, look, use common sense. She's never cleaned up anything. She's never done anything. She's only made everything worse, just like Gavin Newsom. And I think this should tell you everything you need to know. If Maxine Waters is endorsing Karen Bass, that should tell you everything you need to know right there. All you got to do is look who's backing these candidates. I mean, when you look at New Jersey, for example, Paul Sperry put this out. New Jersey Democrat running for Congress is an Islamist who once served as a translator for al-Qaeda terrorist, the Blind Sheikh, during his trial for the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Very interesting. So when you look at Congress, what do you see there? Yes, you see a lot of people installed in these positions. They were not elected to these positions. Plus, most of these individuals that are installed are foreign-born members of Congress. C3 put this out and said, Senate has 6, House has 26. None had to do an FBI background check to receive classified info. Are there more? They don't even have to disclose dual citizenship. How is this not a national security risk? Can't believe this is true. Insane. Absolutely. And once again, this is how they infiltrate. This is how they take control. And right now, you can see that Trump now is making it impossible for these people ever to win a real election. This is why he's putting everything into place, because this is going to remove all these people very, very easily. And you can see the deep state players, like we said before, yes, they're going to continually come after Trump. They're going to come after his family members. They're going to try to come after the people of this country. Because again, as they're losing leverage, as they're losing their strength, the attacks will intensify. Marin Nafal put this out and said, an IRGC-linked Iraqi terrorist named Mohammed Bakr al-Sadi was plotting to assassinate Ivanka Trump as revenge for the U.S. killing his mentor, Qasem Soleimani. He had a blueprint of Ivanka's Florida home, posted maps and threats online, and was actively involved in multiple terror attacks across Europe and the U.S. So basically, you could see that, yes, the deep state players, they're still pushing against Trump and his family. If you look at what happened over the weekend, you could see there was a shooter that never made it into the White House, was outside of the perimeter. But again, this person tried multiple times to get into the White House, and he was shot dead. Trump, he put this out on Twitter, he said, thank you to our great Secret Service and law enforcement for the swift and professional action taken this evening against a gunman near the White House who had a violent history and possible obsession with our country's most cherished structure. The gunman is dead after an exchange of gunfire with Secret Service agents near the White House gates. This event is 1 month removed from the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting and goes to show you how important it is for all future presidents to get what will be the most safe and secure space of its kind ever built in Washington, D.C. The national security of our country demands it. And again, yes, these people are being brainwashed. These people are being pushed to do this. Every time they hear it on CNN, MSNBC, from the Ds, and all on social media from the influencers, the people are going to continually say, okay, we must do this. This is what they're trying to do right now. But in the end, you could see it's always going to fail. Anytime there was a president that was going after the deep state, the central bankers, they tried to assassinate them over and over and over. Just look at Lincoln. Look at Andrew Jackson. Look at many of these people, McKinley, because again, they had to remove the obstacles. And Trump is an obstacle. He's always been an obstacle. And now you can see the deep state players, they're trying to disrupt the counterinsurgency. But again, it's not going to work. It's going to fail. And all those people that were pretending to be on your side, who've been playing a role for a very long time, since they're losing the primaries now, they're going to show you who they truly are. Unseen One put this out and said, so then Tillis says he is now unfiltered due to him retiring, and he can now say things he couldn't before due to a political consideration. In other words, Tillis admits to lying to voters for the last 12 years to get reelected, and now that he isn't running again, he can finally tell the voters exactly how he feels about them. Not sure this is a flex he thinks it is. So basically, they're removing the roles that they kept up for a very long time. And what's going to happen as you see more and more of these people more and more of these people lose their election, you're going to start to see who they truly are. Sean Farrer says, Tom Massey said, and I quote, if I lose on May 19th, I'm not doing any more government ever. If that is the case, why is he filing to run for federal office in 2028? Because Thomas Massey is a liar and Thomas Massey is a grifter. And that's absolutely true. But the real reason, why is he doing this? Think about this. He lost his seat in Kentucky. He received like 47,539 votes in a losing cause in Kentucky. So if he lost there, what makes him think he can win in 2028 as president? He doesn't. You see, his strategy is to do what? Is to divide MAGA, divide the Republican Party to allow a Democrat to win. Because he's truly a Democrat. He's been playing a role for a very, very long time. Cynical Publius put this out and said, he doesn't think he can win the presidency, but he does think he can split the GOP vote in 2028 and hand the presidency to a Democrat. And he will do it out of spite. And I do believe he's going to show you who he truly is. And all these people, you're going to see their roles drop, and you're going to see who they truly are. They're criminals. They're liars. They're all Democrats. That's what you're going to see. They've been playing a role for a very, very long time. And Trump, he made a suggestion. Maybe the House should basically attach the Save America Act to everything it sends to the GOP Senate. I think that's a very, very good plan. But I do believe Trump is pushing all of this because he knows in the end, and I do believe, and if you notice, he's not really saying much about Thune. I do believe in the end, he's waiting for the last moment. And I think the last moment he's going to have Thune say, okay, let's vote for it. We passed it. But again, now the deep state players at ease, they don't have time to create a countermeasure. Trump then can use the executive order to back up the Save America Act because, again, the states won't have time to put anything into place, and he'll just do the basics of the Save America Act. You have to come in person. You need your voter. You need your ID. Show that you're an American citizen. You need to vote one day on paper. That's it. I do believe this is the plan from the very, very beginning. And when you look at this, you could see that Trump, he's gaining all the leverage, everything that he'll need to go after the deep state players. He's going to strike them when they're very, very weak. When the storm hits, I do believe it's going to be a storm of indictments, a storm of unclassified information, a storm of how he has control now over the House and Senate. The Patriots have control over the House and Senate. That, in the end, is going to be the storm, where the storm is going to basically remove Antifa, the illegals, from the streets. I do believe this is what Trump is preparing for, and he wants the leverage. Now, he put out something that is very, very interesting on Truth. He says, we all miss the huckster. He didn't say the hulkster. He said the huckster. So he left out the L. Now, there's two posts that actually have brackets around the L. Post 150, November 13, 2017. Distress calls to others will do you family no good at this stage. That's interesting. And then we have post 2478, November 11th. Let the unsealing begin. Let the declass begin. Does that mean the unsealing of the indictments? Around this period of time? Maybe, maybe not. but it's starting to seem that way. And you can see at this point, Trump is prepared and ready to go after those people that are treasonous to this country. And he put this out on Truth. He says, "This is a bad, sick group of people, very destructive to our great nation, caused tremendous damage through weaponization, President DJT." And it's the shady bunch. Samantha Power, Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett, James Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan, Barack Hussein Obama, Ben Hamas Rhodes. He's pointing them all out. And then Trump put this out on Truth. And he's pointing to American on True Social. Now, this is a post, which is post 4095. It's a picture that was used in a post. This is May 3rd, 2020. And it says, "Stay with me, deplorables. You'll love how this movie ends." And basically, you're going to love how this movie ends. Because in the end, what is Trump going to do? He's going to dismantle everything they put into place. He's going to burn their entire system to the ground. And remember, they've been telling us for a very long time that this country's a democracy. It isn't. It's a republic. And within this post that says, "You're going to love how this movie ends," as he's pointing to American, it explains the difference between a republic and a democracy. The United States is a constitutional republic that uses democratic elections to select its leaders and representatives, but it is not and was never intended to be a pure or direct democracy. The distinction is deliberate, rooted in the founders' design to balance popular sovereignty with the protections against the instability and tyranny of the majority they associated with unchecked democracy. Core definitions from the founders. James Madison, the primary architect of the Constitution, laid this out explicitly in Federalist Number 10, 1787. He defined a pure democracy as a society consisting of a small number of citizens who assemble and administer the government in person. In this system, the people directly vote on laws and policies. Madison argued it was inherently unstable because it could not control the mischiefs of faction, groups pursuing self-interest at the expense of the common good or minority rights. Majorities could easily oppress minorities, and passions could override reason. A republic, by contrast, as a government in which the scheme of representation takes place, here citizens elect representatives who deliberate and govern on their behalf. This filters raw popular will through elected officials, larger geographic scale, and institutional checks. Madison saw two key advantages. One, delegation to a smaller elected group, and two, the ability to extend over a large country, diluting factional power. The founders were not anti-popular government. They rejected monarchy and hereditary rule, but they explicitly rejected direct democracy as a mob rule or prone to turbulence. They drew from classical examples. Ancient Athens, direct democracy, was chaotic, while Rome's republic, with representation and checks, was more stable. Constitutional evidence. Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution guarantees to every state in this union a republican form of government. It says nothing about democracy. This clause, the guarantee clause, ensures representative government, not direct rule by plebiscite or majority vote on every issue. The word democracy appears nowhere in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. Republic and Republican do. The system is constitutional because a written supreme law, the Constitution, limits what even a majority can do. Rights like speech, religion, and due process are protected from majority override via the Bill of Rights and judicial review. Democratic elements exist, election for Congress, the president via the Electoral College, but they are filtered. No direct national referendums on law. The Senate was originally chosen by the state legislators, not popular vote until the 17th Amendment, and the Electoral College prevents simple nationwide popular vote for the president. Practical differences in action. Representation, not direct rule. You vote for senators, representatives, and the president. Congress and the president then make laws. Absolutely. And they wanted to change all this. And they've been brainwashing the people from the very, very beginning. And Trump let us know that the deep state players, well, they're coming to an end. He put this out on Truth. He's pointing to Spiritual Street Fighter 17 and says, "Game over, deep state." On Trump's collar, it says Q+. And you can see Trump is now referring to Q. And once again, the deep state players, they're panicking right now. They're not in control. They're struggling. Now, again, you're going to see the influencers. You're going to see the deep state players, the fake news. They're going to try to convince you that Trump is getting older. His health is no good. And Trump, he just finished his 6-month physical at Walter Reed Military Medical Center, and everything checked out perfectly. So again, everything that was happening to Biden, they're projecting that back onto Trump, and it's failing every step of the way. Even Comey and those people that are being indicted, they're trying to convince everyone that Trump isn't well. And Trump is going to continually take physical, show everyone that he is in perfect health, and he's in perfect health for the job. Everything the deep state players is trying to do, it is completely and utterly failing. And the Department of War, CTO, put this out. Good morning. Patriots are in control. We are now locked in. And the deep state players, they're in trouble. And when Trump says, you're going to love the way this movie ends, I think people are going to love it. Again, getting to where we need to go and how it ends are two different things. So again, Trump knows the classified information. Trump knows the plan. Trump knows how to deal with the deep state players. It might not be the direction you want, the direct direction, but Trump had to take certain paths to get where we are today because he knows how to deal with these players. And you have to remember, he's playing chess. He mentioned this before. He's playing the most important chess game of his lifetime. He's dealing with violent people. He's dealing with friendly but violent people. And sometimes when you're playing chess, you might make moves that don't make sense to get checkmate. And that is what Trump is doing now. Why? Because the Patriots are truly in control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.